That's funny as hell, man. It sounded like you were in a tornado.
It feels like a tornado, brother.
That is so funny, man. I wish I would have went live and recorded it though.
So you're playing in Memphis in May?
Yeah. You know what that festival is?
Dude, that's where my wife is from.
Are you serious?
My wife that sings with Kid Rock, yeah, that's where she's from, is Memphis, Tennessee.
That is too cool, man.
We have a lake house. Memphis is on the border of Tennessee, Mississippi.
Yeah.
And we have a little lake house right below Memphis over on the Mississippi side.
Wow.
And I'm up there quite a bit, but Memphis in May, if I'm around, man, and I'm at the lake house, maybe she and I'll try to come down and see you.
I would love that. That would make my life. That would be better than meeting Ozzy Osbourne himself.
Anyway, if you want to get this done, man, I'm free right now.
Let's do it, man. It's pretty cool, It seems strange, and there's so many thousands and thousands of musicians out there in the world. How I happened to be on a plane with you 12 years ago when I was in Minikiss, and then see you in Hopewell, and then you and you remember me, and then knowing who your guitarist in Blackfoot, Tim Rossi, was prior to that, and it's just kind of strange how paths connect and cross like they do sometimes, man. It's almost like God's trying to say something. It's really weird, man, but it's great.
Oh, it's you know what, man? The music business is, believe it or not, man, music business is so small anyway. Yeah. And the people that you run across one time, the people that you run across once, next thing you know, you'll run across them again.
I know it's too cool. Yes, I do.
And it's an interesting deal to me. It really is. It really is.
It is. It's great to be able to do what you love and your God-given talent and make a living out of it and have fun doing it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't do it any other way. Well, we got a lot of people looking forward to this, man. In fact, I got a lot of questions. But, first of all, I just wanted to find out more about your beginning. The more I read about you, the more interesting it is. And where you were born, and I really want you to tell me, my new wife, Natasha, she wants me to ask you how tall your grandpa was. Shorty didn't look like a very tall man.
He wasn't a very big guy. My grandparents, my grandfather Shorty, actually was my mother's dad, and
nice.
Him and my grandma, they officially adopted me and raised me because my mom was too young at the time. She was only 15, 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And really couldn't take care of a baby who was, I was a very sick baby.
Oh, wow.
And so the deal is that they adopted me so that they could give me the attention and make sure I got the medical attention that I needed and so forth and so on. And so my grandfather at the time was a very well-respected musician and in and around Jacksonville, and he was in and out of a lot of your road bands that were up in Nashville. He played with a lot of your old he played with a lot in and around with your old country stars.
Nice.
Back at the time. And the thing about my grandfather was that he was a guy that could play virtually anything. I mean, the way he explained it is back then everybody needed, if somebody needed a banjo player, then he fit the bill. That was his specialty. Or if somebody needed a fiddle player, that was his specialty. Mm-hmm. Or a guitar, that was his specialty. Or mandolin, or dobro, or any of those stringed instruments. And was amazed at how not just one of the instruments, all of them, he was so gifted and he could play all of them incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody needed whatever they needed, he was always ready to go. I grew up in that environment. He had his own bands. I grew up in those kind of bands.
That is awesome.
So, you know what, man? As you're growing up in that, I was taught, and I'm sure you've read, I started out playing banjo when I was like 3 years old. Mm-hmm. And he bought me a miniature banjo, which I still have today.
That's great. You still have it.
Yeah, man. And he taught me to play it, and he was on a local, when he wasn't on the road, he was on a local show in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Called the Toby Dowdy Show.
Nice.
And it was a country music show that simulcast in Jacksonville and all over the southeast of America.
That is awesome.
And so one day he went to Toby himself and said to him, "Look, I've taught my grandson a couple of songs on the banjo, on a miniature banjo, and we sing together." And he goes, "I would like to see if I could bring him on one time to do the song with me,
mm-hmm.
a song, and just as a novelty thing." And Toby said, "Well, that would be great. Bring him on, you know." Well, the following week, I went on, and the response was just incredible, because here's a grandfather and his grandson who's 3 years old singing and playing together, you know?
Yes, that is too cool.
I stayed on the show for 5 years till I was 8 years old, and the show ended.
Wow.
So that's how I got my start. And in the midst of all that, when I was 5, I took up playing guitar.
Nice.
When I was 8 years old, I took up playing drums.
I knew that was coming.
And everything. I mean, you know, I tried to play it all. Well, my granddaddy, he told me, he said, for the stuff that you're probably going to do in your life, probably you should stick to one instrument and do well on one.
Yeah.
And quit trying to emulate what I do. Quit trying to do what I do.
Right.
And so my love for guitar and singing and stuff, that's what I've stayed doing. But although I do play other instruments still, like I play mandolin, and I've, been on stage with Skinner doing Mississippi Kid playing mandolin.
Love it.
And but I've used my skills, of other instruments, in the studio and stuff,
sure.
and it's always worked out. Yep.
Yeah, that's incredible. We have a lot of similarities, although my grandfather was a big sportsman and owned, on my mom's side, sporting goods stores, sold guns, fishing, hunting stuff all my life.
Yeah.
But my grandmother was a hell of a piano player, and she taught me at a young age that I was a little different, but that I was talented. And she never read a note. She played by ear. She performed with Lionel Richie. She performed for Elizabeth Taylor. And she was quite a celebrity in Virginia.
Wow.
Because of that, And,
right.
yeah, she had me in children's theater. And I did the same thing. I started on drums as a young child and then switched to guitar.
Yeah.
And then lead vocals. And just found my niche, But it's pretty cool that you were raised like that. And I had no idea that your grandfather was actually playing the harmonica and wrote Train. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's an old.
Wow.
He wrote it around 19. I think the way the story is, he wrote it right around 1938.
Damn, it was rock and roll back then.
he had it sitting around, and what happened was that we were all getting the material together for the Strikes album. We were in rehearsal and getting the material done, and and so what I did was I was sitting there going, man, what could we do? We had one last song we needed for the Strikes record, and I was like, man, I got an idea. And our producer, who was our manager as well, I looked at the band and him, and I said, my old man's got a song that I think that we could turn into a really good rock song. And I had my guitar in my hand, and I started messing around. Well, Jack, the drummer, and Greg, they remembered the song because we were all raised as kids around my old man, and
nice.
Heard him always play and stuff like that. So they remembered the tune. Well, we started sitting around rehearsal and started messing with it and playing a little bit of this, playing a little bit of that. I came up with the riff, the opening riff. And all of a sudden, it just kind of fell into place. It was meant to be.
Hell yeah.
And it fell into place, and look, man, we scored a hit song,
Amazing. How old were you then?
At the time we were doing that, I think I was 27, 28 years old.
Wow, yep. That's awesome, man. That was the big deal then. Now, did you play drums for Skinner before that?
Absolutely.
How'd that happen?
I joined Skinner early on.
That's what I thought.
In 71. And what happened was I was with the band Blackfoot, and we were living up in New Jersey. And we had kind of gotten like, I don't know, man, kind of like off direction of
sure
where we were going and what we were going to do. And one of the guys got personally involved with, we had a woman manager at the time, and he kind of gotten personally involved with her, and she really, when anything would come up, she would side with him, and it wasn't done as a band decision, so I kind of got disheartened with everything, and I happened to have Alan Collins's, I think I had his number.
Wow.
And I called him. And I told him my situation, and I asked him, do you guys need a roadie? Do you need somebody to
anything
drive the truck, set up the equipment, and do whatever? And he goes, I think you need to call Ronnie. We got something going on that you need to hear about. So I called up Ronnie, and when I called him, I said, hey, Ronnie, it's Rickey Medlocke. He goes, hey, man, how are you? I said, I'm doing great. He goes, what's up? And I said, well, I just called Alan and told Alan if you guys, needed a roadie or somebody to set up the gear or something, I needed a gig because I want to leave New Jersey, get out of the situation I'm in.
Right.
And right then, Ronnie goes, well, man, do you still play drums?
Damn.
And I said, as a matter of fact, yeah, I do. And he goes, well, Bob has left, and we are going to start recording our first record in 2 weeks in Muscle Shoals, and we need a drummer.
Wow.
And I said, hey, man, I'm your guy. And he said, well, we'll send you, what you need in order to get down here. He said, what do you need in order to get down here? I said, hey, man, I got some amps and stuff up here that I can sell off, but I'll bring my guitars with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I just need a plane ticket to get down there.
Right.
He goes, man, we'll send you a plane ticket to come on down. And I said, great. So they sent me a plane ticket. I had my guitars, my luggage. I went down to Jacksonville. And the afternoon I got in, we went by my mom and dad's house. And, you know, the guys kind of knew my parents already anyway.
Yeah.
And so we went by there and I dropped my gear off. And we went straight to rehearsal and started working on what would become Leonard Skinner's first and last album.
Wow.
Yep.
How about that, man? That is amazing because, you know, I get a lot of questions too. Like one guy was asking, you know, well, there are no original members to Skinner and except Rosington, and they've heard members say they will never play unless there's 3 original members and all. And that's not true. When I believe when you're birthing something like that together as a team, it took everybody, and I consider you an original member.
Well, you know that there is
there's a spirit about Skinner, man, and you're part of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's a petition that's floating around right now. There's a petition floating around that says, you know, Rickey Medlocke should be put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame along with Leonard Skinner because
Amen.
He was there in the very beginning.
Yep.
And Artemis has even said that he didn't understand why I wasn't put in there with the original band, you know?
Yeah.
But I consider myself one of the original guys because I was there in the formidable years.
Yep.
And Gary even says that. So,
wow.
For everybody listening that's going to hear this, that's pretty well the consensus of what people really feel.
Yeah, it is.
You know, unlike what a lot of people, contrary to what a lot of people believe.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yep. I agree totally. Yeah, a lot of people get all sidetracked with, you know, in the tribute world, it's the same thing, you know. It's like, well, that's not quite right now. The only original member is the drummer, and, you know, and they just sit there and complain, and those people, they just don't really understand. They don't get it. You know?
No, they don't. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's cool, man, because, look, I've been there, you know, I've been back. I was there for 3 years. I've been back with the guy's 25 years. And, you know, a total of 28 years I've been in that band.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Hey, you know.
Yep, I remember seeing you back in early 2000 in Richmond at the Innsbruck Pavilion. Yep, way back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've been there a lot, too. And, yeah, you know what? That pretty much explains that, you know, why Blackfoot broke up. And that was one of the questions, too. But a buddy of mine back home in Virginia named Matt, Matt Colvin wants to know, he was watching a special on PBS that talked about Native Americans' influence in music. And weren't you inducted into the NAMMYs, I believe they call it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was inducted into the Native American Music Hall of Fame in 2008.
Wow.
And
that's really cool.
I've got a lot of, I do have native blood in me. My father was full. My biological father was full blood.
That's nice.
And my mother's half. And the deal is, as a matter of fact,
Cherokee?
I've got a new... No. My father was actually full Lakota.
Wow.
And my mother half Creek Cherokee. Yep.
My great-grandmother was a full-blooded Cherokee Indian. Yep.
There you go.
Yep, pretty cool.
But the deal is, I've got a lot of stuff up. As a matter of fact, I can't really tell you what it is.
Sure.
But I'm filming the pilot for a new series coming up in February that deals with specifically Native Americans. And it's going to be it's a pilot we're cutting for a weekly series. So
that's gonna be cool.
Stay tuned.
Hell yeah, I can't wait to see that. I love it. I love it. I love it. And then,
Yeah, man.
let's see. Oh yeah, I know what I was going to ask you. This is kind of cool. Roland Martin. I saw where you saw him the other day. You know, my grandfather, being raised in sporting goods, he had the big gun shows in the high school auditoriums and things like that, where sometimes he would have a celebrity in. But when I was a child, he was friends with Roland Martin, and he would come. I remember him in a camper and sleep in the driveway in their mobile home.
Yeah.
When I was a child, so I thought that was pretty cool. Roland Martin at the sporting goods store. That was awesome, man.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, my grandfather raised me to fish, and I never was a hunter, but I've always been huge into fishing.
Yeah, you love
And,
bass fishing too, don't you? Freshwater.
I love bass fishing.
Me too, brother.
I love bass fishing and saltwater fishing. And
Never been saltwater fishing.
dude, I do a lot of inshore fishing for snook and redfish.
That's
you know?
awesome.
And,
Do you use
and spotted trout.
Do you use live bait?
I use live bait and artificial, all of it.
Yeah, I love artificial top lures too, man. Yep. That's awesome. Well, where do you live at now?
Well, my gal and I have our main home down in Fort Myers, Florida.
Okay, Fort Myers.
And that's where I'm calling you from today.
That's awesome. We just moved here from Virginia for the first time ever, and living in St. Augustine, Florida, and I love it.
Well, you're living in a beautiful city.
Man, I love it. I'm telling you.
It's you know, I was going to buy something on the water there in St. Augustine, and never made the move there. I moved down here, but I love St. Augustine. You know, Gary at one point lived in St. Augustine, so
Gary did?
it's a beautiful town.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know where we live right now across the street. In the Tiffany house was where Artemis Powell lived for a while with his a woman he married, I guess, and his daughter or something. Yeah, right across the street. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. But
That's a beautiful town.
So tell me about real quick, and we'll wrap it up. Tim Rossi, man, Blackfoot. What's going on, man? With Blackfoot.
Well, we're trying to get some things worked out between myself and the band, and once that gets worked out, I'm sitting on a brand new record for them. So once things get squared away,
yeah,
I'm gonna mix the record. I'm gonna continue, and I'll mix the record, and they'll have a new record out this year.
it's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, he's a smoker, man. Tim is a great guitarist. I really like him.
Oh, listen, man. The kid, that guy, man, he could stand with anybody. I mean, he could stand on stage with anybody.
Yeah, he
to
could.
be honest.
That is awesome.
You know?
Man. Yep. So, well, I sure appreciate your time, man. And you know what? I'm gonna keep your number. Let's keep in touch because, man, we got to go fishing. And if you're in Memphis in May, oh my God, how cool would that be to have Rickey Medlocke and his wife?
You got it, little brother.
Man, I appreciate
man.
you, buddy. I appreciate you so
Hey,
much.
well, enjoy St. Augustine, and my big hellos to everybody out there that tune into you. And come see us, brother.
We will do it, brother. Thank you so much, Rickey. It was a pleasure.
You bet, man. Take care.
Talk soon,
All right,
buddy.
bye-bye.
Bye.